it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Crazy Antics Unicorn Picnic and one image from a bug deal. It's the little dirt pile. So I've stamped my images out on Neenah Solar White cardstock with Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers. The first thing I'm going to color is the ants, and for them I'm using C3, C5, and C7. I prefer to color things that are supposed to be black with dark gray colors because it just makes their features more apparent. So I just laid in some shadow with that C7. That one is really dark, it's almost black, just separating the little sections of their body. And then I'm going to blend that out with the C5. Just doing kind of a little C shape there, and then saving a little bit of that space for the highlight shade, which is the C3, especially on their faces where their eyes are. I want to overlap the eye with that C3 so that it's still visible. And I'll do the other three ants off screen just to save some time in the video. I'm going to move on to my picnic basket, and for that I'm using E51, E53, and E55. I'm bringing in that E55 from either side. I'm also going to pull it upward on the basket handles, and then down below I'm going to continue adding that shade on the left and right and adding a little shadow under the rim of the basket. And then I will start to blend that all out with the E53, just grabbing the edge of that E55 and pulling it into the lighter areas. And then I'll save some space for the E51 and just fill in all of that white space. Again, making sure to work over the area from the E53 so that I get a nice smooth transition. I'll add in the E50 and use the lighter three shades to color in the bun from the sandwich. So I use that E53 as the darkest now, and then I'm blending that out with the E51, and then I'll use the E50 as my highlight. And then to darken things up, I'm going to keep the E55 but add in the E57 and E59, and I'm going to use these shades to color in the little dirt pile, which is going to be my ant hill. So I started with that E59 down toward the bottom and a little bit on those little lines that are drawn, and blended toward the top with the E57 and then the E55. I'm also going to use these shades to color in the cake. So I'm going to do the outside layer, the frosting, and then I'll do 3 of the inside layers as well. I find that this combo works really well for chocolate. So I'm putting the darkest on the left hand side and blending toward the right, lighter and lighter. And then I'll fill in those inside areas with R22, R24, and R29. So it'll have maybe like a strawberry or raspberry filling. While I'm at it, I'm also going to color in the watermelon slice. So on the cake, I just put that R29 over on the left, and then on the watermelon slice, I'm blending from the bottom up with that R24 and then filling in with the R22. I'm also going to do the little swoosh on the center of the soda can with these shades, just putting that darkest shade on the outside edges to help it look nice and round, and blending lighter and lighter toward the center. And then off screen, I'm also going to color in several of the sections on the quilt. The next combo that I'm using is RV23, RV25, and RV29, and I'm going to do the frosting on the donut. I'll add a little of that RV23 to the white of the watermelon rind, and then I also colored in some more of the squares on the quilt. And then for my green combo, I'm using YG21, YG23, and YG25 to do the watermelon rind and the lettuce on the sandwich. And then I'll also do the center area where it says chips on the little chips bag. And on that one, I'm also doing the shading from the outside in so that it looks nice and full and inflated. I'm moving on to BG05, BG07, and BG09, and I will do the outside of the soda can with these shades, just sticking with that same pattern of coloring from the outside in. And then I'll also do the chips bag with those shades. And when I get to the top portion, I'm going to color that a little bit darker and have less of a highlight there just to kind of differentiate it a little bit. And when I finish that, I will color in a few more of those quilt squares. And then my last color combo is going to be Y000, Y11, and Y13. And I'm going to use that to color in the cheese and also the cheese on the sandwich. And then for the sprinkles on the donut, I'm just using the Y13 because they're super small. And then I'll finish off the quilt. And then I just have one marker left, just the C1, and I'm going to color in the top of the soda can and the spoon. I'll grab my black Sakura Jelly Roll pen and go over the eyes of the ants. This makes them nice and bright and shiny and really helps them stand out since they are so dark. And then I will trim all of these images out with their matching dies. For my background, I have taken the Lawn Fawn Meadow Backdrop Portrait and die cut that out of a piece of Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock. I'm going to keep those pieces together for now, and I'm taping off the top grass border with some post-it tape. And then I will grab the Lawn Fawn Cloudy Stencil, and I'm going to sponge on some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink. And I'm going to work on building up that color, especially on that top section. I wanted it to be a nice, pretty blue. And just have some nice saturation up there. So I'm going to continue blending until I am happy with that color. And then I will turn my stencil and get another cloud formation and continue blending down that panel. Once I have the second one on there, I'm going to turn that one more time and make sure that those clouds are covering the little grass portions that are sticking up from the bottom section. I don't want to get any blue on those, so I'm just using the cloud stencil to cover those up. And then with just a little bit of the ink that's still on there, I'll add a little color to the bottom of that section so it doesn't look so stark white. I'll separate that inner cloud portion and put that back on my work surface. I'm going to add a little more of that tumbled glass and water that down, pick it up with a thin paintbrush and do some splatter detail, just to add a little more interest and a little texture to the panel. Then I'll set that aside to dry and work on the bottom portion. I've taped off the area where I want my green to stop, and then I'm going to sponge on some Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. And I'm trying to be careful when I am on those top portions with those little delicate die cuts. So I'm doing a little bit of a pouncing motion so that I don't accidentally bend or rip those off. And then once I have that fairly covered with that color, I'm going to add in some mowed lawn. And this color I mainly want to use as a defining shade on the two grassy borders. So I'm going to add that to the top one and pounce that on in places again so I don't bend those little delicate die cuts, and then blend that out with my Twisted Citron once again. And then I will add a little piece of cardstock in between the die cut portion for the bottom edge, and that way I can blend on some more of that mowed lawn and, you know, just create a little more definition there as well. Once I'm done, I can remove that panel, and then I'm going to press some of both of those colors on my work surface water those down again and pick that up with my paintbrush and do some more splatter detail. It's just an extra little step that you don't have to do, but I really enjoy doing it. It just adds a little extra something. It gives you a little bit more movement on the card, a little more for your eye to, look around and see. So I've taken my Finley's ABCs dies and just taped those together, and I'm going to run those through my die cutting machine with some raspberry cardstock and also with some lobster cardstock. So I just will peel those off and save those little letters to the side. And in the meantime, I want to work on the rest of my sentiment. So I'm prepping a piece of black licorice cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and then I am inking up my sentiment with Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink that works great for heat embossing because it just holds on to that powder. So I'll coat that with the white embossing powder, and then I will tap off any excess from the back and bring my heat tool to that. I like to heat it from the back first just to help eliminate some of the warping, and then I take it to the front until that powder is all nice and melted and bright white. While I have my MISTI out, I'm also going to stamp on the inside of my card. I'm using Lawn Fawn's Mermaid cardstock and Peacock ink to stamp 2 more of the ants and the little sandwich and the sentiment that says "Life's a picnic with you." And now I can work on assembling my card. So I'm going to adhere that meadow backdrop to the front of my card, just lining that up with the edges and making sure it is nice and straight. And then I'm going to add in the center portion with the clouds. I'm fitting those around those 3 little die cuts that are poking up, and of course all the little grass pieces, and just pressing that down into place once everything is where it should be. And then I'm going to start assembling my letters. So I'm going to use the lobster cardstock as a drop shadow. So I'm adding a little bit of glue to the right hand side of each of those letters, and then adding the raspberry cardstock over top, and I'm just offsetting those a little bit so you get just a little bit of that lobster cardstock poking through, and that really just helps them stand out on the scene. So I'll finish putting together all of those letters and then line them up on my card front just how I want them, and then I'm going to use a piece of washi tape to pick those up so that I can add some glue to the back of them, and that way they are perfectly spaced and I don't have to worry about, trying to line those up and getting glue all over the card. I can just pick up the ends of that tape and line up the A and the S with the outer portion of that card panel, and then press those down into place. And when I have everything adhered, I can peel up that washi tape and the letters will stay down right where I wanted them. Just doing it really carefully and going nice and slow so that you don't pull any of that back up. I'm going to add a dot of glue above the eye and then set that little dot in place. And at first I had it going the wrong direction. I had the lobster on the right, so I just flip that around, and then I'm adding the rest of my sentiment, which I've cut down into a little strip right above that. So now it's time to stage the little scene of my picnic basket heist. So I'm going to put the quilt down at the bottom towards the left, and then I'll have the picnic basket over on the right. And I just put that at a little bit of an angle to give it a little bit more quirk. And then I'm going to tuck in the soda can and the bag of chips. I'm going to add that one over on the left hand side, just poking out. Next, I'll take the dirt pile, which is going to become my anthill, and I'm going to place that up on the highest crest up toward the top there, and then I'm going to start to add in my little ants. So this guy is going to be unloading that picnic basket and passing the goodies on to his friends. So I laid out the rest of my ants so that they could be in kind of a zigzag pattern going up toward the anthill and creating kind of an assembly line going up to drop all their food stores down the hole. So I'm just gluing those down into place now that I know that I have them where I want them. And now I can begin to add in the food, starting with the chocolate cake. I'm going to put that on the picnic blanket, and then I'm going to add the little spoon kind of in front of that, as if maybe they are having some snacks right now as well, taking a break from their hard work perhaps. One of the little ants toward the top had a little mishap in my die cutting machine, but I figured that I could cover that up by the food that I'm going to place on his back, so I did that with the watermelon, and you can't really even tell that he had a little issue there. I'm going to put the cheese on the one in the middle of the card. I just wanted to put it on his back, but also tuck it behind his antlers so that those were still visible. The sub sandwich, at first I wasn't sure where I wanted that to go. I thought I would put it also on the picnic blanket, but in the end I decided that the basket was looking a little empty. While I was thinking about it though, I did add the standing ant on the top of the anthill, and then I put the donut in the hands of the guy who's kind of the last man on the assembly line. And then I went back to that sandwich and was trying to figure out where to put it, but I decided that I would tuck it into the picnic basket because it just looked too empty, especially in that center section where the little cutout comes from the handle. It just needed something behind that. I also tried adjusting the chips bag, but it didn't look right there either, so I ended up sticking the sandwich in that center area. And then I still felt like it needed one more thing kind of on the left-hand side there between the sandwich and the chips. So I ended up stamping and die cutting another soda can. I just made this one lemon lime, so it's green and yellow, and I tucked that in that empty space, and I was a lot happier about that. So that is going to finish off my picnic basket caper card. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I post new videos every Monday and Friday, and now occasionally on Wednesdays as well. So if you can't wait that long, here are 2 extra videos I thought might also interest you. You can click on either one of those to check them out, and I also have tons of playlists on my channel as well. Thank you guys so much again for watching. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.